Huzur, I want to put a traditional question, if you could kindly share with us your latest tour.
The traditional question about my tour. Right. This was a short tour comparatively, but also very busy because of its being short. I covered 2 countries only this time. I first visited Denmark, and from Denmark I proceeded to Sweden. It's a very long country, Sweden is. And I started my tour of Denmark from Copenhagen, and from Copenhagen we went to Malmö, and from Malmö to Kalmar, and from Kalmar to Gothenburg, and from Gothenburg we took a ferry to Denmark, and from there, after driving 200-300 miles, the ferry was also quite long, it was 3 hours or so. Driving 200 some miles, we took a ferry for England. We started at 6 o'clock and reached here at 4 o'clock next day. So altogether the journey starting from Denmark was about 30 hours. 30 hours going, 30 hours coming. So 3 days out of 9 were gone in the traveling. So in the 6 days I filled all the requirements and met so many people and families, and we had so many question and answer sessions, some with mixed gatherings with Arabs, Africans, and Swedish people, and also from other different races. Some special meetings were organized for press, some special meetings were organized for meeting the intelligentsia and political leaders from all walks of people, and also people from all walks of life. Such meetings were attended by different nationalities like Iranians, Pakistanis, and Arabs, and all sorts of people from everywhere. So you see the journey from Malmö to Kalmar is around 300 kilometers, and from there to Gothenburg is again 300 kilometers roughly. So we traveled as well as had meetings and also the meetings were well attended, and people had come from some long distances in fact. And the most interesting thing was that the press gave a very sympathetic coverage this time, amazingly, because normally the Swedish press is not at all, was not at all sympathetic. They were under the impression that we are a small splinter group of Islam, and as such we shouldn't be given any importance, or it will displease the big governments, Muslim governments. But this time, when they asked different questions, one of the papers, which is a national paper, wrote a fantastic thing. I could never expect such foreign papers, particularly from Sweden, to write this. He said that all that were told to us about Ahmadiyyas by other Orthodox Muslims have been proved wrong. And we can now say with certainty that Ahmadis know the Quran and they do not. Imagine. Because mentioning me, he gave reference to each verse when I built my point of view. And he said, we have found that to be absolutely correct. This is what the Quran says, and the other orthodoxy goes about terrorism and this and that, and jihad be safe and this. That's absolutely wrong. The Quran does not approve of them. The Quran speaks of absolute justice. The Quran speaks. Whatever I said, the representative who wrote this article must have checked the references, because it took him 2 to 3 days before he wrote this article. And everybody was carrying this article. You know, this created a stir. It was the first time a Swedish paper had written, and he was not known to me. I don't know who he was who did it. He must have attended one conference, went quietly out, and instead of writing an article immediately that day, which is normally the custom of the press, he took time to check everything. That is why it was a very forceful article which he wrote. So alhamdulillah, because it is read by the white public all over Sweden, so we hope inshallah this will create some effect of removing misunderstandings about us. Previously, it was mainly Pakistan embassy which was active in propagating against Ahmediyya. They left the impression that what are they, a small thing. It is the world of Islam which knows Islam. And who are they? Why are you treating them as Muslims? The world of Islam has rejected them. They can't go to Hajj and this and that. All this propaganda seemed to work with them, you know. That is why they started showing cold shoulder to us. But this time I offered myself for every type of question. I said, ask me, find out for yourself, and then judge whether what I am representing is Islam or what they are representing is Islam. So it was in this mood of confrontation that I said everything I wanted to, and this made an impact, mashallah. Again, there are other non-Ahmadi Muslims from Pakistan who started by telling everybody that you are listening to his viewpoint, you know, and he's addressing me, you are presenting your viewpoint. What about the viewpoint of the knowledgeable mullahs of Pakistan, all the majority of Pakistan who know Islam, and you are representing your understanding of Islam? This is only one-sided. So I said, start by your questions, start one by one with what they understand and what I'll tell you later on what I understand and why I do understand it. After the very first question, this gentleman, who seemed to be rather hostile in the beginning, he started nodding in affirmative. So yes. I said, the next question. And the same thing happened with the next question. And then he came out with a third. But I must pay the tribute to him. He was hostile but not dishonest. Because the dishonest mullahs generally, they insist on their viewpoint, they refuse to understand, they repeat the same thing over and over again. But this man looked at me, you know, with deep concentration and understood what I said. And mentally he was comparing both sides. And in the end, he seemed to be amazingly changed. But naturally not altogether, because he told he had a long list of such questions. I said, we can't engage with each other in the country, Sweden, where you are a foreigner, I am a foreigner, not giving them a chance to put their questions and to engage each other, monopolize this meeting. I think this is not fair. So he understood, he said, yes, I agree. Later on I was told that this man had completely rebutted all efforts of Ahmadis to discuss Ahmadiyyat with him. He was a very popular man there among the Pakistani community, a sort of leader-like figure. And from the short discussion I had with him, I had this very strong impression that he was not dishonest. That is the virtue he had, and this gave me hope that if properly Ahmadiyyat is presented in the proper perspective, he may, with the blessing of God, become an Ahmadi. So this is just one short experience. I was engaged in meetings from morning till late night, and I left count of the hours I spent. Only I know that from one meeting I was shuffled to another, I was shuttled to another, from there to another, and so on and so forth. But with the grace of Allah, God gave me strength to, bear all this without tiring. Alhamdulillah. Please. Also, I have noticed during this tour that inquiry about the real Islam is gaining popularity now. And people are ultimately fed up with the propaganda. This urge to find the truth about Islam is rising rapidly. So I was amazed to see some senior politicians, members of parliament who were also in the policy groups, senior members with policy groups. When they came to our sessions, people like him and others of the same class and the same influence over the society, they came to attend my question and answer sessions, and when I answered one of the questionnaire about the truth of Islam, about the attitude concerning the women, about jihad bisayf, struggle for the spread of Islam with sword and so on and so forth. The people who had asked the question were, of course, very gentle and noble-minded, but the question was sharp and stinking. This is the courtesy of the society which everybody shows. This is excellent behavior, and I think the Muslims also should follow it, because Islam teaches this noble behavior to every Muslim. And al-kalamatul hikmat dallatul mu'min. So if these people, this decency, public behavior and kindness and courtesy and tolerance, they virtually belong to Islam, originally I should say. And the believers should excel in these qualities. They should look up to us, because we belong to a higher culture. It's introduced by the Quran, and that culture must outshine all other cultures and all other behaviors and all other, pattern of negotiation and dialogue. But in this, we are lagging so far behind, unfortunately. Except for a rare Pakistan Muslim questionnaire, like one I quoted. Many times, when they came, they started rubbing things in and debating and behaving in a manner as if it was their floor and I had come to ask questions, But these people, despite the differences, they tolerate the answer. If they understood that, of course, it is not a debate. If they were not satisfied, still they would shut their mouths. So, well, you said it, that's thank you. But when they agreed, they openly agreed. They said, yes, absolutely right. So this behavior impressed me and also pained me, because I said, oh God, why don't the Muslim have display this decency which is taught by the Quran in the first place? But anyway, I noticed this, that although in the beginning they had met me privately before, during smaller individual meetings and so on, and their interest was just that of a disinterested third person, was only interested in what was happening to Ahmadis in Pakistan. That was all their interest. But during this question answer, when questions were raised by Islam, about Islam, I was amazed to see their interest was aroused to a level where they could not suppress it. Some of them telephoned my host and said that it's amazing what we heard about Islam, and now we know what Islam is. Previously, we don't know what we thought of Islam, and that was not true. Now we are convinced that it is a great religion. And some of them offered their services. He said, whenever you need us, we are there. Because learning Islam for you is a fantastic experience. So that is why I said, the world is becoming interested. It's a pity that the Muslim ulama themselves paint Islam black. And it's with such difficulty we have to first remove the first paint and then repaint it in its true beauty, natural beauty. So I think the Arabs should also take note of this, and many of them are in fact changing their habits, but some still behave as if Islam and morality don't go together. I think generally I have answered your question, and as far as the detail goes, it's impossible for me to cover everything because I have returned after 9 days, but the impression I have from my internal clock is that perhaps I have spent 90 days. Very busy tour, and almost round the clock, that I was active with children, with families of all sorts, and with the college boys, college girls, school boys, school girls, old lajnah, young lajnah. They have divided things into so many categories, and every category want to have a separate sitting with me. Then say Urdu speaking session, English speaking session, with translation, without translation. They have divided the programs into so many categories that I seem to be riding, all the time. So like a connecting train to carry me from there, a connecting train to that station. But it was interesting all the time. It was also rewarding. And particularly when you see children becoming more and more interested and saying wonderful things about their future, how they would like to serve Islam and this and that. That enthusiasm is most rewarding, And some people come out with fantastic remarks, some boys. Some of them said, you see, we are going to become his guard. We like this guard standing. And one boy, a young boy, I was amazed to hear his comments. He told his mother, look here, I have seen Hazrat Sahib in action all these days. And I assure you, I don't want to become a Khalifa. Please pray to God. I don't want to. It's impossible for me to carry this load. A young boy watching me and coming out with this comment is fantastic. Her mother assured her that nobody is going to make you a Khalifa. You should be sure. But still he was afraid. Maybe, what happens. So, very interesting family mulaqats. Very, very interesting family mulaqats. Also, you notice the boys who are moving away, attracted by the culture around, and then you see them returning back with a big bang, and deciding even to offer their lives for the sake of Islam. So in this short time, such rapid changes are most welcome. And I think it was worth the while my tour of these two countries. The standard of dedication to Ahmediyya is rising with the grace of Allah consistently. Everywhere, the youth, the boys, the girls who are educated at the school and universities, instead of being drawn to them, they are returning with determination back to Islam and Islamic values. And many promised me that they are going to preach to their fellow students and so on. And some of them did it successfully already, had done it successfully already. And it was good to see a young boy or young girls convert, come to the mosque and participate in everything the Muslim way. So things are happening, inshallah. I have told them that they should begin to convert the whole of the country where you live. It will take time, but you must begin. If you don't move, then how can you cover the distances? But if you cover the distance as the Holy Quran advises, consistently and with patience, inshallah, after a while your strength will increase and the pace will double and double and double and so on. So this time I saw determination in their eyes, yes, we're going to do it. So alhamdulillah, I'm happy that God is changing the hearts. It's only Allah who can do it. In such countries I see, unfortunately, most of the Muslims being drawn so powerfully to their culture, to the habits of drinking, dancing, and wasting their life, gambling, and they still think there's nothing wrong with Islam, with their Islam. So their interest in Islam is just a formal relationship, which of course they guard very strongly. I don't say they do not have faith, but there is a contradiction within them. Strong faith and strong belief, which does not motivate them, which does not transform them, which does not have any influence over their own personal character and things. So this living in duality is very painful. But alhamdulillah, these boys and girls, they're learning the Quran, they're learning the namaz, and some young boys read it so beautifully, I was amazed. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll see better things happening in future in these countries. Again, I have noticed one thing, that always we say prayer in congregation during our journey by cars. Wherever we find a good petrol station with open space, we make arrangements for the prayer. We always keep this compass and the direction schedule, manuals and things. Every time we said it in public, I noticed that people just became interested, not only by way of sort of, something funny going on, like sometimes people do, but some of course looked at this what funny thing is going on, that sort of thing. But some of them are deeply impressed. And this time, when we were coming, the day was very cold, exceptionally cold, and the wind was very strong. And the wind chill factor, made us tremble with cold. But we had to say our prayer, and so we did it like we always did. Now, one man came out of his car and watched us. And he stood up there. When we finished, he inquired from us with such love, who you are and what was this. He said, I'm amazed. So we exchanged notes. He gave his address for the literature to be sent to him. So this institution of Bajamaat Namaz, congregational prayer, is also beautiful. The owner of that petrol pump, it was a big petrol pump, after we had started, he rushed out towards us but started to say something he couldn't, then he returned. When we finished prayer, then he rushed back to us with so many packets of sweets, distributed one each to everybody, and apologized. He said he wanted to call us to say prayer inside his hotel. And he was making arrangements to remove tables and chairs, when suddenly he saw that we had already started. He said he felt ashamed. Why didn't I do it before? Why didn't I tell them that they should wait? So this is my compensation for what I couldn't do. So he sent one packet of, it was quite an expensive sweet, but he distributed one to each, insisted you must have. So again he willingly accepted whatever literature they had and exchanged notes, and he said, yeah, I am interested. So such a change in the air is very, mashallah, is a welcome change, and it augurs well for the future, inshallah. So I think that should be sufficient for the time being about the tour. What would you like to ask? Anything particularly which might be agitating your mind?
Kindly